So I'm just going to trim the bottom of this plate. It's thrown quite thin, so I don't actually need to put in a foot ring. I would lose too much clay. So I'm just going to basically take off this corner where the most clay is, and I'm going to compress everything to make it really smooth because it has grog in it. So grog is pre-fired clay that will poke out as the rest of the clay shrinks around it if you don't compress it back into the body. So I'm going to be using a trimming tool, a bigger one and a smaller one, just to take quite a controlled corner off. And then I'm going to be using my metal rib tool and my rubber rib tool to get it nice and smooth. You can see there's a few little bits of batt, so I don't need to use clay to stick it down because it's such a wide surface. It will just pretty much stay where it is, and I'm not going to be going particularly fast or putting a lot of pressure on it. So this is basically, I've made sure that it's centered, which it is. You can see my hands aren't wobbling around, and I've got them either side of it. A little bit of pressure on the top. And the first thing I'm going to do is come to this side. Let me move you over. Whoops, lovely noise. And I'm just going to take off that corner. I'm going to skim off that bit of scrap clay that was on the top of the plate there. You can see that there's still a little bit on there, so I'm just going to level that off. And now I'm actually going to go in with, I'm going to take off that little bit of excess clay. You can see how textured this clay is and hear it. When you're trimming, you want the wheel to be doing the work. I'm just holding it in position. This hand is nice and still because it's anchored on my leg and on the splash pan. And so it's just holding the tool in the right position and letting the turn of the wheel take that clay off. The speed you will need to be going is medium. If it ever feels out of control, just slow it down. And that really should be probably enough clay. These are pretty much thrown almost to thickness because they don't obviously get moved around a lot. So I'm going to go in first with my metal rib tool. I'm curving it around with a fingertip behind, starting in the centre, and I'm just compressing that clay and moving outwards. You can see the difference, right, between the compressed bit of clay and the textured clay there. That's what we're looking for, is that nice smooth bit of clay, because you don't want your plate to be scratching your tabletop. And I'm following with a fingertip, partly to almost to compress, but also I wanted to see if I can feel anything scratchy, because I can see something there that might do a little bit of extra compression. So it's a double whammy. It's a compression of a fingertip and it's feeling that clay. You're always looking at using your fingertips with your eyes to help you work out what's going on in your pot, because sometimes there's going to be times when your fingertips are going to be able to access parts your eyes aren't. So I've gone across. I'm now just going to keep a fingertip on the top and just going to compress the sides a little bit. Again, even though they're not going to be touching the tabletop, when you put your glaze on, it's just going to give me a smoother result. So a little bit of clay compression. The other thing this does is keeps your plate nice and flat. So when you take your plate off the bat, if you lift it, you can get a bit of a bend and get a bit of a curly plate. We do not want that. So compressing it again will really help it stay nice and flat. And now this is belt and braces, so that would be fine as it is, but I'm just going to go for one more compression just to keep it nice and flat, using my rubber rib tool, and just, you can see, even more compression on nice smooth clay. And again around the sides, keeping it nice and steady. Because it's just compression, it doesn't matter if I take it off centre a little bit. There we go, lovely. And now let's do the other side. So flip her over, place her down. Don't know why this plate is a her, but apparently she is. Now you can see my fingertips nice and steady on the side. She's nice and centered. A little bit of pressure. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. So using my slightly grubby metal rib tool and my fingertip, starting from the middle, compressing and just moving out. Hear that grit? And maybe I'll just move back in again to really get it nice and smooth and compressed. So if your clay wasn't grogged, you wouldn't need to be quite as aggressive with your compression, but it's never a bad idea, even if your clay is smooth, to compress your plate, as I said. So because these walls are curved up, if I come in here with my wet rub tool, I'm going to start to remove some clay. So I'm actually going to go straight in with the rubber tool, and I'm just going to compress from the side here. Moving across, and then I'll use a fingertip just to check if there's any exposed grog. Do the same thing coming back in. Notice the sound difference. This plate was £3.5, so it's not particularly small. Hopefully, because of all the grog in there, it's not going to shrink too much. But, you know, you're always surprised when you open that kiln, even after all these years. And that looks nice and smooth and plate sized. I like quite a high lip on my plate because, you know, big fan of a sauce or a condiment. Oops, the daisy. Just going to compress that down. Lots of compression. Lovely. There we have it. A nice plate, which, if I give it a little twist, should just release the kiln shelf from the wheel like that. Then we have a nice trimmed plate ready to dry before it goes through the kiln and is glazed.